Economic data that we've got to talk about. Jobs data that came out this last week, something unique inside of the data, and the impact of student loan debt. It is a Saturday. There is extremely little news outside of this, from a Tesla robotaxi tire apparently touching a car door and people calling it the first robotaxi accident, which seems like a ridiculous joke, to the front pages of Bloomberg.com talking about butter prices going up because, well, that's now affecting kitchens and croissant prices. And Fox News is covering sharks in the water because there's so little going on today. So we'll just talk about some economic data. So first on jobs, ING, so ING, they predict that we might actually end up getting to a place where we only need 50 to 60,000 jobs per month to keep the unemployment rate stable. Now, why is this interesting and why is it unique? Well, what's interesting and unique about this is usually when we get under about 70,000 in the jobs report, we worry that those are actually recessionary numbers because when we get revisions that come in, we'll end up revising to the negative side. Barron's, which I got mad because there was so little going on with news that I threw it, so I don't think I could find it. Didn't I? Oh, I think I ripped the piece. Oh, I threw it away. It's right here. The Barron's article where they started touching on this, they had a really interesting start. It's from this Barron's Weekend Edition. You know, I always try to grab the paper before I leave. I'm about to go fly to do some house hack business, but I'm also towing the kids along because we're going to go play airsoft. But he starts off with, there are lies, damned lies, and then there are government statistics. Apparently that's a Mark Twain quote, and I'm like, spot on. But anyway, this 50 to 60 number is really interesting because if that means that's all we need to keep the unemployment rate stable, then we're actually going to be in this really weird place in the second half of the year where the unemployment rate is stable, but the job numbers are collapsing. Now, in the Barron's piece, one of the reasons they say that the jobs report could actually fall, or like these numbers could actually fall, is because we're seeing a slip in aggregate hours worked, which is not ideal. You're seeing not only aggregate hours, but weekly hours declining to levels below where we were in 2019. Not great for GDP, not great sort of for an expanding economy. Clearly evidence of a slowing economy, but not crashing economy. And the Barron's author, he argues that we're seeing teachers that stayed at work longer this year, which could have hit this jobs report to the delta of about 120,000 level, which is a lot. You know, if even half of those teachers stayed at work, that'd be 140,000 jobs overcount versus an 80,000 jobs report, which would have been a lot more nervous for markets. I have to say, though, when we look at delinquencies, credit card delinquencies are actually peaking, which is crazy because everybody's been talking about these rising delinquency levels, but we're actually peaking out in 2025 on some of these seriously delinquent levels, which is, you got either a flattening or a peaking out, which is actually a good sign of a strengthening economy, right? Right here you have, that's credit cards. Here you auto loans transitioning to serious delinquencies. Yes, you have this 40 to 49 age group right here still rising, as well as this 30 to 39 group aging. But over here, the older demographics and the younger demographics are actually seeing their numbers sort of peter out and flatten. So you're not like seeing this skyrocketing of a collapsing economy, and it's probably because the labor market is so strong. Now, keep in mind, I mean, we all know this, but the labor market is like the last thing to turn dirty. You know, even in the ING piece, they mentioned, like, be careful looking for the labor market. In fact, there's another ING piece here where they talk about, hey, issues we have coming for the economy are tariffs, obviously, but does it really matter because, you know, tariffs take so long to show up. And they talk about how last time it took 3 months for tariff data to actually show up in our inflationary reports. They actually think that we are going to see more inflation in the second half. I totally disagree with them, but whatever. However, they say, hey, it might take more than 3 months this time because so many companies saw these tariffs coming and everybody stocked up so much inventory. So it might take more than 3 months. But they do make a very, important reiteration here that jobs reports don't point to a falling out of the labor market. But remember, usually the last place economic damage shows up is in the labor market. So they actually think markets are being a little bit too complacent and more pain is coming in the second half of the year. But again, like, what data can we point to say that we're actually really caring about these tariffs? They say, oh, well, it's the, July 9th deadline. Really? That's already been delayed to August 1st. Donald Trump's actually kind of playing this perfectly for markets by just buttering this out. Delay, delay, delay. Then, we'll have a 90-day and then we'll send letters. But now we're sending letters that say we won't actually implement the tariffs until August 1st. You just kind of keep kicking the can down the road. So it's like actually great for the economy, because in a weird way, what you've done is you've motivated more purchasing. I know people who've been driving the same car for 7 to 10 years, and they went and bought a new car because they were afraid of tariffs. So in a weird way, like, Trump's kind of like tariff drama has just motivated the economy. Now we'll see what happens with Q3 estimates, but so far Q2 GDP estimates from the Atlanta Fed are just kicking butt, 2.6%. This is fantastic, well offsets some of the negatives that we had in Q1. And on top of this, we got to talk about that student loan impact. I'll just give you kind of the quick bottom line on this, because the Apollo piece was like 80 pages long, maybe not that long. It was like 40 pages long on this. Some interesting things: student loan delinquencies are very high in the South. You can see that in this red territory. This is where you have the highest student loan delinquencies. And then in green, the lowest, which would be like center north, northeast, west, and then Florida, as well as your Carolinas. Household debt. This was huge. Like, in my opinion, this was a fantastically bullish chart for the U.S. economy. Household debt levels are back to 1999 levels, which is evidenced roughly by this red line right here. I didn't want to cover up that, so I did put it slightly below. And household debt levels are plummeting as a percentage of disposable income, lower than we were in 2019, which is also bullish for the economy. Remember, these notes are also in the Meet Kevin app. If you want to see them, download the Meet Kevin app on your Apple or Android app store. And remember to adjust the notifications. Like, I highly encourage it. A lot of people don't realize that we do this or even have this app. And, I'm not just trying to like shill this, because it like, to me, it doesn't make much of a difference how many people use it. But I think it matters to people who like the content. If you want to see, like kind of like all the Meet Kevin videos, you can kind of see them in one place. You might not care about that because you're like, oh, I could see that on YouTube. Fine, fair. But you could go to preferences here and you could choose what notifications you want. So if you're like, Kevin, I don't care about your aviation videos, you could turn off the pilot notifications, or you could turn off, California videos, or whatever, right? Like, set it however you want. So do check that out, the Meet Kevin app. We think that's somewhat useful. But anyway, getting to the student loan stuff, here you can see the demographic differences. Lowest a percentage of delinquencies or people behind on student loan payments amongst Asian and white. Asians like twice as many white delinquent compared to Asian. And then the highest delinquency rates amongst Black and Hispanic. And if we look at, which part of that could be due to the concentration of poverty. If you want to know my opinion on like poverty and race, because I'm not going to do that in this video, you could literally just type into YouTube, Meet Kevin, Black versus White. And I'm just really blunt about the differences in income and the concentration of poverty and issues that we face socioeconomically. You could learn about that if you care about it. Anyway, here, as a share of total consumer spending by income, you could see that obviously the highest quintile spends the most money in our economy. But I wrote some notes over here just to kind of come up with some quick math, because Apollo didn't do it. So it is my math. But about 7% of the workforce has to deal with student loans. Our consumer economy is about $18 trillion, which means about $1 to $1.2 trillion of the workforce economy is affected by student loans. But obviously their spending is not going to drop to zero. So if their spending declines 10% due to student loans, you'd have an impact of about $100 billion. If their spending declines 20%, you'd have an impact of about $200 billion. But the point is, the big beautiful bill probably grows the economy way more than this anyway. So the big beautiful bill likely more than offsets any of the damage of consumers having to go back and spend. So, too soon to say that consumer spending is like going to fall off a cliff or because of student loan payments resuming or whatever, which we found was sort of an interesting number. Along with this sort of 50 to 60 to keep the unemployment rate stable, part of this is because of so many people leaving the workforce. including migrant workers. In fact, boomers have left the workforce. We're at a 19-year low in boomer participation, and our foreign labor force is down 1.14 million since March, which is pretty remarkable. So anyway, I got to go do some house hack work, and we'll do some more open housing tomorrow for house hack as well. Maybe you can follow me on Instagram, and I'll actually post some stories. And I guess if you want like a freebie, I'll show you a quick little stall video if you want, which I think is kind of fun. I wanted to make this its own video, but I figure as a freebie, as like a free bonus for you making it to the end of this little segment here. This is just what it looks like when somebody holds an iPhone and watches me stall my plane. Stalling a jet is, you know, actually surprisingly similar to stalling a propeller plane.
Stall, stall. Stall, stall. Stall, stall.
There it is. Power's in.
Stall, stall.
So that's just an example for you. That's facing the what's it called? We were facing the water over there, and then I'm pretty sure I pull off another one in a little bit. Is it over here? Yeah, here's another one if you want to see it. But basically, we just pitch up, and the hydraulic pusher pushes the plane down. You can see my speed plummeting over here. So we try to maintain altitude. You pull the power out and just pitch up, baby, pitch up. This, I'm pretty sure, is our clean stall.
Stall, stall.
No, gears down on this.
Stall,
Gear down, flaps
stall.
down on this.
Stall, stall. Stall, stall.
Come on, baby.
It doesn't want to stall.
Stall.
No, it's resetting.
It's so hard to stall
Stall.
it. I gotta pull it back more.
Stall, stall.
Push, baby. I'll just
Stall,
We're floating
stall.
at 85 knots.
down.
There we go.
Stall, stall.
Now pull out.
Anyway, and obviously I'm still alive. Anyway, free little bonus there. So happy Saturday. But if any of that makes you nervous and it makes you feel like you want to get life insurance, remember you could always get life insurance at metkevin.com/life. It's a paid partner of the channel. metkevin.com/life. That's M-E-T. Yeah, there's an E missing. Metkevin, because we now, right? metkevin.com/life. You can sign up in as little as 5 minutes. That's what Lauren and I have. It's great. You can Apple Pay, Android Pay for it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.